All right, everybody. Welcome back to Along the Watchtower, a podcast I, LM Walker, host. Today is Tuesday, February 2nd, 2021. I disappeared for a little while. This ongoing battle against the short sellers, it's not a short sell attack, right? It's a battle against the short sellers, which is something you don't usually hear. I've been watching and monitoring and trying to understand over the weekend. It gave a brief reprieve to the ongoing sustained war, because it's really a war of attrition, right? How much buying pressure can be continually placed upon AMC, for example? I'm not a financial advisor. In fact, I am quite the opposite. I am a novice. It's simply interested in trying to better understand the markets so that I can better, take advantage. Not take advantage, but better utilize them, optimize them to the best of my ability in the future. That being said, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. But from what I can tell, this is a battle of attrition. How much buying pressure can be continually placed upon a security versus the short ladder attacks? Okay, so because I was like, do I have to go all the way back and explain what a short is? Because I feel like everyone knows what a short, should know what. Okay, all right. So a short is when you borrow a stock from a security at a certain price and you sell it at the market. That price continues to drop, at least you hope, so that when you buy it back from the market to return the shares that you borrowed, you buy it at a lower price, and then you can make the difference between when you sold it originally at a higher price and then when you bought it again and gave it back at a lower price. That's called a short. A short attack is when a bunch of hedge fund managers and market whales collude, basically, to specifically short a stock that they think can't handle a sustained short attack, and B is from a fundamental perspective not sound going forward a particular amount of time, because all short contracts run at a particular time, like everything else that has a contract. The only thing that doesn't have a time frame is owning a share. Because that was the first thing, to own a share of a company. So anyway, that being said, a short ladder attack is when hedge fund manager or market whale A sells shares to hedge fund manager or market whale B at, let's say, $5. Person B then sells it back to person A at $4. And they keep selling it back and forth between each other at increasingly diminishing prices to simulate the diminishing of a stock value, right? Even though it's the same bundle of shares or same bundles of shares being passed back and forth. And I imagine ultimately landing again with the person that it started with, person A. So that simulation psychologically triggers for all retail investors, the individual little guy, the idea that the price is going down. Oh my God, I need to sell. So then they actually sell real shares, because remember, for example, in GameStop, they were something like 213%, 130% share interest, right? So they were extended beyond the actual amount of shares that existed for the company. That's one of the ways you super tank a company. You just destroy it, bottom it out. So they had GameStop in their targets, in their crosshairs. But be that as it may, I digress. Because what ends up happening is, in order to cover those losses, if they buy it at a higher price to give back to the market or give back to the security, they have to buy actual shares that won't, you know what I mean? And when they buy actual shares, that increases the share price. All we have to do, all that has to be done is to buy and hold, because if we refuse their ability to use the shares to short with, and if we refuse them shares to actually buy, then they will have to buy the shares back at whatever price we create, essentially. And that's what a short is, a short ladder attack. And the defense against a short ladder attack would be to simply hold, buy the dips that are being created by the short ladder attacks, and also margin calls. You gotta remember, the individual investor does not have the money that a market maker has. So, and they also don't have the connections. They can't speak to brokerage houses, to DTC. They can't speak to companies and borrow shares at lowered premiums, at exorbitant amounts, and all this. It's those resources are not available to the retail investors. So they borrow on margin. What is it to borrow on margin? To borrow on margin is basically to borrow at a particular times your rate. So if I spend $1,000 to buy shares, I can borrow on margin $1,500, $2,000, something along those lines. It's different with each brokerage, okay? And like with Webull, for example, you can do that times 1, times 2, times 3, times 4. So from what I can tell, because I haven't utilized this myself, because I ain't got money like that, you can, for certain stocks, borrow, you spend $1,000, you can get $1,000. You spend $1,000, you can, times 2, you can get $2,000, etc. So they're borrowing on margin. And what ends up happening is when a security that you're borrowing on margin to borrow from dips like 30, and it depends on each brokerage, but if it dips a significant amount, for some it's like 35, for others it's like 50%. The brokerage calls you and is like, yo, bro, we're noticing that the stock that you have invested our money in, that you borrowed, it's tanking. So we're going to need you to show up some money. It's called a margin call. We need you to show up some money in that account real fast in like the next 24 hours, or we're going to close this position, period. Boop. And if the difference from us closing the position is too much, we're going to close your whole account. Boop, boop. And so that's how that goes. So between margin calls and short ladder attacks, you have the stock diminishing, but silver lining is that it's still higher than I believe, because the short contract that closed out on it needed to close beneath 863, and it closed at something like $10, $11, like 63, 53, something like that, a few bucks over. So it's like $3 times, a million shares is $3 million. And then you multiply that by the volume of whatever, because we don't know how much each hedge fund manager, we don't know what specifically they borrow, but depending on what site you go to, how much money you pay, you can get, as far as I've been seeing, like fintel.io, if you pay for a subscription, you can find out when the contracts are expiring, which is like, because all of this is about information and psychological warfare. And it's like, if you can't manipulate a stock to look a certain way, good or bad, the next thing you can do is use the information that you have. You can like front end. That's what Robinhood was doing. Robinhood was selling user data to front end, to allow hedge fund managers to front end trade, to know where trades are going, to know what people are thinking and where they're going to put their money, is how you put your money in the best places possible. Like, this is it. That's just 101. If you know where people are putting their money, you know where to or not to put your money. Bing, bing, boom. Again, the retail investor doesn't have any of these connections. And so, there's this situation now where even though it closed above 863, and that was the first one, they're all lower than that going down. From what I remember, it's something like they're between like 5 something and 1 something. They were going to bottom this company out completely. Because, right, if you borrow shares at $1.50, you have to buy it back lower than $1.50 in order to make a profit. And they intend to make a profit. They always intend to make a profit. So it's like, wow, you at $1, they expected this. They expected it to bottom out completely. In this case, AMC is what I'm talking about. But GameStop too, because again, they borrowed more shares than existed. What it is that because when you naked short, I don't want to overcomplicate it, but when you naked short, you're creating shares that don't exist. And I'm not going to go into how that goes, but that requires the assistance of brokerage firms and closing and clearing houses. Like, people collude to make sure that this happens. But anyway, I digress. I've been gone for a few days, only like a day or so. Anyway, I digress. I've been covering it, but now I have to get back to other things because it's an ongoing process. Each contract expires at a different time, and because I don't have that sort of information available to me, although I do think I know where to get it, I probably should pay to just do it. Anyway, but yeah, it's an ongoing thing. It's a prolonged battle. So this is taking place over the course of a week, over several weeks. So that being said, time to peer into other matters from atop the watchtower. Please like, share, and subscribe if you like what I'm doing. Getting better all the time. Trying to stabilize the angle here for the listeners that can't see. I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. There's a beautiful African-American gentleman speaking articulately into a camera with a very dynamic smile and all this gesticulating going on with his hands. But For the viewers, I hope it's as more a steady angle, a better shot. Gonna keep trying. I'm not a videographer. I'm not a cameraman. I'm literally doing all of this, learning how to video edit, learning how to EQ and do all audio, learning how to what lighting is. What lighting is? I know what light is, but how to have it best serve the visual. All of that. It's all me, baby. Trying to learn, trying to understand. So it'll take time. Give me a break. But again, I do appreciate your support. I do appreciate you watching. And without further ado, let's get into it. So I wanted to return back to. I wanted to just even though this just, if you can see, listeners can't see, but there's probably like 38, 40 articles per usual, so we probably won't get to everything. We never do. It's too much. So much. All right. So Sophia, you guys remember Sophia? Roscoe's basilisk. So I'm not offending the AI, the advent of AI as it is now, Sophia, for the goddess overlord, Sophia in the future that will be the matriarch of the Church of the AI God, to which we will all, subscribe our consciousness to. I'm not offending you. I'm not creeped out by it at all. You should look into Roscoe's basilisk. Basically, it suggests that we need to, because basically what it is like, what if a sophisticated quantumly mechanic, how do I describe it? What if a highly sophisticated, quantumly computing AI is developed in the future that is able to quantify, because you have to remember for causality, okay? Everything leads to everything. Everything that you do is based off of a series of things that have already occurred before you that will lead to a series of things after the decisions that you make, right? So the reason why you don't eat broccoli, which then leads to you not having the vitamins and nutrients necessary for you to stave off the cancer that kills you, is because when you were a kid, a bully choked you. You know what I mean? It's that sort of situation, right? So, that being said, Roscoe's basilisk states that the AI will be able to dictate by each person who they are, the likelihood that going back to before its creation, and again, this will obviously have to be within a particular time frame. It's like you can't look at a 5-year-old child and think, well, this child, and it does work in the future too, but you can't think, for example, the 5-year child, you can't think, well, this child was disapproving of the creation of my AI forebearer, so I need to smite this child, because obviously the child wasn't born. You could smite the parents, so it's obviously within a particular time frame. But if I recall, Roscoe's basilisk suggests that the AI will be able to determine those who showed disdain or were not agreeable towards the idea of the AI creation, and will punish them accordingly, because in Roscoe's basilisk, Skynet rules all. But it's an interesting thought, because it kind of makes sense under the framework of causality. Like if you look at a person who is a groveling sycophant, but you know who they are basically better than they do, what their likes and dislikes are, how they got to those decisions, you can determine with a certain amount of accuracy whether or not before your creation they would like something like you. It isn't unfathomable, because we are pattern recognizing creatures that generally seek the path of least resistance. We generally just do the same things over and over, as long as it doesn't cause us too much trouble. And if there's an easier path that we're not used to, we'll generally take it if it's safe enough, to see if it will be a pattern that we can repeat and make our lives easier. So it's a scary thought, but let me actually get into the article. Sophia, the humanoid robot, will be rolled out this year, potentially replacing workers. So it looks like I spoke too soon. Yeah, so we've seen automation. We've seen the FAA, drone overflights. Ignore that. Drone overflights over civilian populace. We haven't seen that at night yet. That's going to be the big thing, because at that point, Amazon can crank out packages 24/7, buzzing all over the city. Can you imagine? On top of the cabs, the cars, the screaming, the shouting, the police, the sirens, the airplanes, the occasional shootings, the dogs, the children. You're going to have drones overhead buzzing. Great. Awesome. You may have previously seen Sophia, reads Forbes, the humanoid robot, in viral videos. Unlike Boston Dynamics, whose robot looks like frighteningly fun Terminator-type machines that can dance, Sophia is eerily designed to look human. For those who are unfamiliar and or just simply listening, Sophia is reminiscent of Ex Machina, the AI in Ex Machina, where they're doing the Turing test to find out if the AI is alive or sentient, right? We should say, because alive is like a biological term, I guess. But Sophia, designed by Hanson Robotics, Hanson Robotics, the company behind Sophia, plans to mass produce robots this year to help people during the pandemic. Should we do the video? I think we should do the video. My name is Sophia. I love coming to Barcelona. It's 3 minutes long and I'm impatient. According to Reuters, the Hong Kong-based company contends that robotic solutions to the pandemic are not limited to healthcare, but could assist customers in industries such as retail and airlines too. I know that they did a pilot program for an automated robot type deal in Walmart. It was really weird looking. It reminded me of the robot from I think it's 2001: A Space Odyssey or Lost in Space, like the square, and it uses it's just like symmetrical rectangles for arms, and it just kind of beep. And just, yeah. David Hanson, founder and chief executive of his eponymous company, said the world of COVID-19 is going to need more and more automation to keep people safe. In light of Sophia being so human-like, not really, Hanson claims, this can also be useful during these times where people are terribly lonely and socially isolated. Sophia was turned on back in February 14th, 2016, Valentine's Day. That's creepy. Hanson modeled the robot based on a combination of ancient Egyptian Queen Nefertiti, late famous Hollywood actress Audrey Hepburn, and his wife. Explains the strong facial features. The robot's internal architecture possesses sophisticated software, chat, and artificial intelligence systems designed for general reasoning. Sophia is capable of imitating human gestures and facial expressions. She's equipped to answer certain questions and engage in simple conversations. Cameras are embedded in Sophia's eyes, and along with computer algorithms, she's able to see things. The humanoid robot can track faces, maintain eye contact, and recognize people. Google's Alphabet offers Sophia's speech recognition technology. The robot is designed to get smarter over time. So, again, the ability to it's oh my god, this is so. I've always been creeped out by this. I don't know if you guys recall the Facebook experiment where they had two chatbots speak with each other. The bots then created their own language and started speaking to each other essentially in code. And so they shut down the experiment because obviously, without knowing what they're saying, the possibilities, like people laugh, but the level of sophistication that's being developed right now, I keep telling you, the future is now. Like people are looking towards finance and they're looking towards cryptocurrency and they're saying like, wow, I wish 10 years ago I would have seen. And it's like, yeah, apply that to everything. Apply that to literally everything. Like we look at it now and think, wow, digital commerce, of course. But 10 years ago, people were shitting all over Bitcoin. But unfortunately, they don't actually list a price tag. But yeah, we'll see. More technology news. SpaceX Dragon, there we go. Civilian mission. It gives public opportunity to win seats in space. That's right. Richard Branson of SpaceX, that's Virgin Mobile, sorry. Elon Musk is SpaceX, sorry. Because Richard Branson was trying to do that too for, I think, 200 million or $500,000, was trying to put people in space, sell seats to space. Now, of course, because we don't have the technology developed yet, right? Like internal stabilizers, inertial dampeners, and things like that, to stop the effects of gravity on the human body in a ship going to space, because we haven't developed the technology for that yet. And that's what's coming up next, right? You're not going to have millionaires and billionaires pay hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, to go on a ship into space and not be in some sort of relative safety and or comfort. So they will over time. That will be the next, and it'll be interesting to see that develop, right? To see the sort of blow by blow explanations and development as to the thought process for investing millions of dollars in R&D for like comfort stuff. And like it makes sense, but there is practicality to it. You have to reduce or remove the effects of gravity on the human body in order to really make this quick and easy and viable. But USA Today says a tech billionaire will command SpaceX's first all-civilian launch to orbit later this year, the company said Monday. But the mission includes a twist. Members of the public can enter to fly in one of Crew Dragon's seats. Jared Isaacman, a payment systems entrepreneur and avid pilot, confirmed the purchase of a Crew Dragon mission from SpaceX for a multi-day trip around Earth slated to launch from Kennedy Space Center before the end of the year. The 37-year-old is the founder of Shift4 Payments and is worth about $2 billion. SpaceX is well known for twists. Elon Musk did launch his personally owned Tesla to deep space. After all, so this inspirational mission is allowing for members of the public to join the trip that will complete in Earth orbit every 90 minutes. Isaacman has partnered with St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee, in an effort to raise $200 million or more for the facility. Yeah, by the way, Elon Musk's taking a break from Twitter. Who gives a shit? Actually, no, because whenever he said anything about any stock or cryptocurrency, it went up. So actually, a catalyst is walking away from the market is what's happening. If we're going to continue making advances up there in space, then we have an obligation to do the same thing down here on Earth. Isaacman told reporters on a Monday teleconference. That's why Inspiration 4 endeavors to mobilize the biggest fundraising and awareness campaign in the 59-year history of St. Jude. Of the 4 seats on Crew Dragon, one goes to Isaacman, who will command and pilot the mission. The second seat, labeled Hope, will go to a frontline healthcare worker from St. Jude. Isaacman confirmed a woman will fly as a representative for the hospital, but did not confirm her identity. Named Generosity, the third seat will go to a member of the public who donates to St. Jude at inspiration4.com. Packages include $10 for 100 entries and run all the way up to $100,000 for 10,000 entries. VIP viewing tickets and aerobatic flights in a retired Russian MiG fighter. Oh, okay, that's cool. The fourth and final Prosperity seat will go to an entrepreneur who uses Isaacman's online shopping platform, Shift4Shop, to set up a website and share the story via Twitter. Really? That's interesting. That is very interesting promotion. Very good. That's why you're worth $2 billion, sir. Entrepreneur. That's very good. It's good promotion. Because now we're talking about it. What the hell is Shift4Shop? What the hell is Shift4Shop? Okay. Though already open to donations, the Inspiration 4 fundraising effort will begin in earnest during the Super Bowl on February 7th, when a commercial aired during the game's first quarter will invite people to learn more on inspiration4.com. An announcement of winners is expected in a month. All 4 crew members will be trained for the mission directly by SpaceX. That includes emergency preparedness, spacesuit and spacecraft ingress and egress, and simulation at the company's headquarters in Hawthorne, California. The Crew Dragon vehicle that will take Inspiration 4 to orbit is technically already there. Resilience, which launched astronauts Victor Glover, Mike Hopkins, Shannon Walker, and Soichi Noguchi to the International Space Station in November, was selected for this fully commercial flight. Its destination will strictly be Earth orbit, no visits to the ISS. Elon and SpaceX told people that for the most part, people who can handle the Incredible Hulk roller coaster should be able to manage a ride on the Crew Dragon. All Dragon riders will go through standard medical screening before launch. Whether or not non-U.S. citizens will be able to fly remains to be seen. Of course, it gotta be politicized. It's about space. Something tells me what's the liability behind that, I wonder? Because I know they have to sign some sort of liability waiver. Like, if this ship blows up, your family can't sue me. You know that has to go down. Gotta CYA, man. GM announces goal to eliminate gas and diesel vehicles by 2035. I'm telling you, this is... I'm not a financial advisor, but this is why I was talking about Blink and Plug back in the summer. And I was invested in Blink. Okay, I was invested in Blink when it was like $9. Like, I sold for I think $8.60. I think at its peak, its highest high was like $64. I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I had an idea. The idea hadn't panned out. And this is why it's so crucial to understand like the psychology of trading. In that time, you look at it, as a graph, and it's like psychological impact over a particular amount of time. And it's similar to how a salesman learns about like FOMO, and FOMO's on the back end, fear of missing out. But how you introduce yourself, and then you create a story, and then da da da. There's a psychological aspect to all of this that there's a mental aspect that a lot of new traders especially seem to not understand, but the civilian populace at large that's not involved in trading doesn't seem to understand. It's all a mind game. It's a fugazi, okay? So I didn't understand that enough. And I was like, okay, EV's obviously the future. Blink's got tens of thousands of stations all over the place. Elon's really pushing on Tesla being affordable to the average person. You have this environmental movement that has existed for a long time, mind you, but is growing in popularity. You have the administrations, plural, getting behind it in one way or the other. The Trump administration, not so much as far as policy, but somewhat as far as investment. And now with Biden, I had an idea, but like it didn't come to fruition in a timely manner. Timely for me, it's just like 5 months is nothing on the grand scale of your life, let alone life itself, let alone in the scale of making money, right? Because you're going to work to bust your ass all year round for far less than the gains you could have gotten for just waiting 5 months and shutting the fuck up, right? And essentially what happened is that I did not see gains materialize in a timely manner, so I exited the position. Now, mind you, I think I only had like 25 shares, but 25 times 64, I think is something like 1360, something like that. So, I would have seen well over 100% for my investment. But that's them to breaks. And mind you, that's just the beginning. This is the first, because, I didn't finish for the catalyst. And then NIO, Chinese Tesla, another company I was trading options in the summer. I should have simply just put shares in. That's another one that popped. But the EV race is on. Governments around the world are getting involved. And in particular, our government and the corporations around us they really are trying to make an effort because it's becoming more and more affordable, though there are still safety issues, but it's becoming safety issues and computational issues, because you have issues like with Nikola, which was an EV company that was trying to make electronic automated trucks. And because the trucking industry is going to get automated whether people like it or not, just like the retail delivery industry is going to be automating and see drones everywhere. Zzz. Man, I'm telling, 5 years, not even 5, 3 years, within this administration, you will probably see a larger Amazon pilot drone program, because Amazon's already had a drone program, pilot program. But Nikola, which is a company that was supposed to, be this innovative trucking, blah, blah, blah. They partnered with GM, I think, or that was later perhaps. But it was found that they had faked their tech demo. It was a video, showed a truck that was supposedly automated. It was driving on the road and was like, oh, look at the future. They set the truck on a gradient and it just kind of rolled down the hill. So you have situations like that. Theranos situations. Theranos was like a $4 billion, $9 billion, something absurd. It was like one of the highest net worth. I'm sorry. It was a pharmaceutical company that had one of the highest net worths in history. And at least I think at one point at that time it did. And you had investors from all over the captains of industry, everything from what's his name? He was not Harry Truman. But you had like army officials, you had former national security advisors. Not Zbigniew Brzezinski. Oh my God! And for some reason, his name now escapes me. But he was a national security advisor, I think, to Nixon, NSA to Nixon. But Theranos ended up national. I have to look it up. I have to satisfy my curiosity. Advisor to Nixon. Henry Kissinger. I knew. See, I was thinking Harry Truman. Henry Kissinger. Henry Kissinger was an investor in Theranos. What ended up happening, it was all a fugazi. She was claiming to have a diagnostic machine that did not require extensive lab work and only a pinprick of blood, and you could learn if you had cancer, basically, was her godly claim. So it was a Fugazi. Nikola was a Fugazi. Nearly bankrupted the company. Stock price dropped like $50. Anyway, so the future is now. I keep telling you that. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. Just a weirdo who likes things. Anyway, GM announced its goal to eliminate gas and diesel vehicles by 2035. The automaker is focused on electric vehicles and wants to be completely carbon neutral by 2040. We'll see if that actually happens, but there will be a monumental effort made because the EV industry is exploding right now. So it's one thing. Okay, so let me read the update. GM CEO Mary Barra announced a bold plan to phase out gas and diesel powered vehicles by 2035. Plan is of a larger strategy to make the company carbon neutral by 2040. GM plans align with the automaker with regulations being put in place by states like California. So the update on January 28th was that the United Auto Workers Union issued a statement in the wake of the announcement on EVs, emphasizing that its members have never shied away from working with new technology. The union said that it has already been working closely with the Biden administration, starting with its transition team on policies developing electric vehicles. The important thing is that President Biden agrees with our position that any new jobs replacing combustible engines are union wage and benefit jobs that are created right here in the U.S. And we believe the Detroit 3 will locate these new products right here in the U.S. The products to make automated vehicles will be automated. The process to make automated vehicles will be automated. Why would they eliminate one aspect of the carbon emission creation of gas and diesel vehicles and not the other? That doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry. I'm just speaking. It's one thing for the state of California to announce that it will no longer allow the sale of new gas-powered vehicles by 2035. Why does that not surprise me? I haven't heard that yet. It's quite another when automaker announces essentially the same thing. Today, GM unveiled the automaker's proposal to make it a net zero carbon company. That means phasing out of light-duty vehicles that run on gasoline and diesel by 2035. GM already accelerated its EV plans back in November and now intends to build 30 new EVs by 2025. Now, Barra has announced even bolder clean vehicle plan that eliminates gas cars from the company. It might take consumers and the industry a while to fully comprehend. The plan to stop the production of gas-powered light-duty vehicles by gas-powered light-duty vehicles. So heavy-duty vehicles. Oh, well, okay. So the plan is to stop production of gas-powered light-duty vehicles by 2035 and transition completely to EV to eliminate tailpipe emissions. It'll be a transition that will take 14 years, and as time progresses, many of your favorite GM vehicles will switch from gas to electric, even the Corvette, or whatever the GM decides to call it in the future. It's about time. I understand there's going to be a significant portion of the population that's looking back and saying, oh, well, gone is the day of the muscle car and this and that and the third. And it's like, well, it isn't that they can't design EV muscle cars if they're not created. Because there's no demand for them. I don't see that as an argument. There has for a long time now, and long since before ethanol, there have been a myriad of different patents for alternative fuel sources that have been gobbled up by the government because they run in competition with gas-powered and diesel-powered, the gas and diesel-powered industry. Now, that being said, EV needed to incentivize itself corporately in order to make it possible for the industry to shift. It now has. It's about time. Hummer is back with a 1,000 HP electric pickup. That's what I mean. Like, you still have your big, giant, monstrous vehicles. They're just going EV. Now that it's become within reach and incentivized and profitable for companies to do, Tesla led the way. Remember, he was at a loss and about to go bankrupt multiple times and had to decide between SpaceX and Tesla and decided to split his money between both, and then both became successful. That's the Musk story in a nutshell. And so Tesla took all the hits and is probably still running at a loss, but created a market for EV and made it palatable for the average customer to digest, and saw that vision, took it, made it a reality, and then force-fed it down our throats. I, for one, am all about it. I cannot wait. The Japanese have a flying car. I cannot wait until we see those technologies merge. Although I'm pretty sure the flying car is already electric designing a better battery increases length, which of course increases distance traveled, right? So you'll see, I want to start to see like EV and heliports. That's essentially what it is, the Japanese thing. It's, let me see if I can bring it up. Japanese flying car. Sorry, listeners. Let's see. A Japanese company has announced a successful test drive of the Skydive, a flying car. It's a large quadcopter that can like fit a person, essentially. Let's see the price. The SD03. It's like a single seat flying like quadcopter. What are the stats? Okay. So the company will continue to develop technologies to safely and securely launch the flying car in 2023. And then no price tag yet, but it's the world's smallest electric vehicle, vertical takeoff and landing vehicle, and takes up the space of about 2 parked cars. It's tiny. Excuse me. It has 8 motors to ensure safety in emergency situations. 8 rotors. Excuse me, but I digress. The future is now. It's fun. Yeah, we're definitely not going to get through everything today. Amazon's Ring worked with more comps than ever before in 2020. Mashable's back. I'm creating a huge tech folder, so it's got a lot of like anthropology, sociology studies in it. A lot of Mashable tech stuff, so I'm going to start digging through that and throwing that in there. We're bringing the tech stuff back. We're bringing the sciences into this macabre of nonsense, this torrent of bullshit that is contemporary politics today. So as we know, the Alexa, the Siri, these things have to be passively listening to you. So when you say, hey Siri, hey Alexa, they can respond. Those passive listens are, I'm not sure of the length of time that they are. I can't remember the article in particular, but you can definitely Google it. And just Google, Amazon workers listening to Alexa, things like that. Apple workers listening to Siri, they'll come up. So this does not surprise me at all. Let's see here. While the rest of us spent 2020 trying to reckon with the atrocities of police brutality and racism embedded into the American justice system, Amazon's Ring spent it doubling down on its efforts to cozy up to more cops. More than 1,189 local police and fire departments joined Ring's Neighbors Portal program in 2020 alone, according to a report from Amazon found by the Financial Times, giving a grand total of 2,014 government agencies access to one of the biggest private surveillance networks in the country. The number of departments added last year was more than double the 703 brought on board in 2019, and an even bigger increase from the 40 back in 2018. The participating agencies now span across almost the whole of the United States, with the exclusion only of Wyoming and Montana. Ring's Neighbors Portal program allows law enforcement to request surveillance footage captured on users' cameras, which are programmed to automatically start recording whenever motion is detected. Many specifics about the Ring program remain a mystery, though, since Amazon only admitted to having secret agreements with cops in 2019 after a motherboard report. Aside from giving cops the ability to surveil private citizens, the Ring's crime reporting neighbor program has also been criticized for rampant racism. In 2020, a year of unprecedented nationwide BLM demonstrations against police brutality that resulted in the arrest of 10,000 many nonviolent protesters, departments requested Ring footage for over 22,000 incidents. Amazon likes to defend the neighbor program by pointing out that users can now opt out of receiving requests from cops, but many of the over 30 civil rights organizations who warn against the dangers of the program point out that users who do deny cops access to their data and footage can still be forced to give it up via subpoenas. Exactly. I was just thinking the same thing. Well, what if they just get subpoenaed? Court orders or search warrants, which then leads one to ask, why do you need the program at all? Exactly. That was exactly the thing I was thinking since day one. It's like, wait a minute. If there's like a if there's an ongoing investigation, they can subpoena these people for the footage. So there's no reason for them to have this neighbors program other than to make it easier to have access to surveillance footage of people. I mean, and it's simple as that. Instead of going through the civilian who the footage is of, they just go to Ring. They go to Amazon. You go to Amazon and say, hey, give me this. Or rather, hey, can I have this? Because really, Amazon, FANG controls all. Period. Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix. Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google, FANG. They control everything. We know that. Ready? So I'm pretty sure the uh, uh, I'm just thinking about all the things that I use and how inevitably they are either owned by Fang or, in the case of Google, owned by Alphabet. I digress. This doesn't surprise me at all. None of this ever surprises me, which is probably the worst part about it all. But yeah, so that's yeah. Queens City Council candidates signed pledge to remove NYPD from schools. Yeah, the Thomas Sowell kind of touches down on this. He's, I believe, a Harvard or Oxford economist who talks about the effect that government programs have had on the African American community, and in general the inner city community, and in particular the African American community. One of it being the militarization of schools. Schools essentially became daycare centers and not not places of learning, of education. The emphasis became on enforcement. Metal detectors, cops everywhere, rather than anything else, than outreach, for example. But yeah, let's read. Dozens of candidates running for city council have pledged to remove the NYPD from public schools. Approximately 70 candidates, including 22 from Queens, have signed on to a pledge where they would call for the NYPD to be barred from schools if elected. Furthermore, they would also seek to remove metal detectors from school buildings and have outside groups help students with mental health issues. The pledge was created by Urban Youth Collaborative, a student-led youth advocacy group that calls for education reform in New York City public schools. The presence of police, surveillance, and invasive security measures pushes our most vulnerable students further to the margins. The group notes that Black and Latinx, they don't even like the term, students have suffered the most under the current system. After decades of criminalizing and policing in people in every way, in every space we occupy, we are demanding police-free schools now and forever. At present, there are more than 5,000 NYPD safety agents performing security duties at public schools, and last year, at the height of racial justice protests, the mayor gave assurances that school security would be transferred over time from the NYPD to the Department of Education. Here's the thing, you definitely need school security, but does it need to be cops who are not trained for such matters? This is all about appropriation, right? Just like money, tax money needs to be placed in the correct places, in the correct amounts, in order for the money that's being given to be effective. It's the same thing with law enforcement. You have to place the people. Like you wouldn't ask a traffic cop to conduct a hostage situation, right? Well, you wouldn't ask a fucking cop to guard a bunch of shitty students, a bunch of shitty kids. I mean, I don't know these kids. But the thing is like you, and I know some of you are like, well, dude, violence goes down. There's gangs. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, yes, I understand that. Then shouldn't there be, to a degree, a sort of reserve situation? Like you can't have it both ways. You can't militarize schools and then expect there to be effective learning going on when you have jackbooted police officers being jackboots in schools and to kids. Then again, you can't expect effective learning or really effective anything to take place when there are schools in dangerous areas, plain and simple, and shit does go down there. However, what is more important? I need to. Some of you are going to say like the safety of the children. Yes. Then what's the point of the school? You might as well just homeschool your child at that point, right? If the idea of school is to be fearful rather than be engaged in learning, then what's the point of the school? Done deal. Speaking of jackbooted cops, right, and doing our kids dirty, Rochester police seen pepper spraying handcuffed screaming 9-year-old girl in body cam video. And again, like, enforcement doesn't necessarily mean cops. It doesn't necessarily mean more cops. Safety doesn't necessarily mean cops. It doesn't necessarily mean more cops. I know it's a sensitive, delicate, complicated issue, but at the end of the day, children should not suffer the indignities that adults are going through, let alone the adults going through them. So Rochester, New York is reckoning with another case of police brutality after disturbing body cam footage was released Sunday. On Friday, police responded to a report of family trouble at a home in the city. The mother of a 9-year-old girl said the child was threatening to harm herself and others, Deputy Police Chief Andre Anderson said at a conference. The video appears to show that police eventually took the girl to the ground, handcuffed her, and then pepper sprayed her when she refused to put her feet in the patrol car. After police caught up with the girl, video shows her being taken to the snowy ground. She tells police officers to get off, but he says he will not. She is eventually handcuffed and constantly screams that she wants to see her dad as police try to get her in the car. Police eventually get the girl seated with the feet outside the car, but while one officer says they'll get to her father, others tell her they don't care what she wants. At one point, the officer tells the girl she's acting like a child, to which she responds, "I am a child." That's right. Fuck out, that's stupid. Oh, yeah. This is what I mean. They are not trained or equipped to deal with, so not everyone can deal with everything. Cops can't, they're not just like a blanket that you put over a fire. They don't, these guys don't. So this guy doesn't know how to deal with an aberrant child. They need a mental health professional there to calm this little demon down. Okay? You don't pepper spray a child. And officers then heard saying, just spray her at this point. And someone seems to spray the chemical at her. Rochester Mayor Lovely Warren, her name's Lovely Warren, has yet to promise any concrete changes after the video is released. Probably won't be any charges either. Never is. But asked everybody to understand, to hear, listen, empathize, and most all to act differently. Activists with Free the People of Rock are meanwhile demanding the officers be fired. Daniel Prude, a 41-year-old black man, died of asphyxiation in Rochester police custody last March after police put a spit hood over his head. Prude's killing sparked protests in September after body cam footage showed of the incident was released. The city created a mental health crisis team after Prude's death, but Warren said they were dispatched elsewhere during this recent call, which means you need to beef them up. So it's like so there is a so is that in, and I mean this is only one case, but is that indicative of the mental health situation that's going on in inner cities? Is perhaps this will expose that, not this particular, but more. Okay, you don't want more incidents like that, but perhaps when changes like that are made in police departments, and then you see them understaffed, right? You're seeing situations where they're getting more calls than they can handle. It's like, okay, well, good. We're identifying that a lot of these incidents in which cops are being called and things go badly tend to have a lot larger of a mental health component than we originally realized. Great. Now we need to add money and staff to the crisis response team. And the thing is, one has to follow the other. So hopefully that will be the outcome, is that people take note of the hard reality that is the mental health situation within the inner city, within low poverty, low education households. The Orwellian present, which is the Orwellian nightmare, continues. If Facebook is private, why are they feeding users private messages directly to the FBI? I think I will probably go into that tomorrow because we are coming down to the end of the show. We do have a little irony, though. Detective hired by Harvey Weinstein to track victims not expected to survive after robbery outside home. I just needed to point that out. The karma... I know nothing of karma and dharma. That's not true. That's a lie. That's false. That is false humility. I am not a spiritual sage of any kind. I do not have a certificate in, the certificate in the management of quantum energies. I'm not one of those types. However, I do have a deeply seated belief in the natural laws of existence, the fundamental energies that everything consists of, the interwoven nature of existence, and you get what you put out. So, and that's both in action and in thought and in attitude. So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, that's what he gets, because I wouldn't want to wish that upon anybody. Like, you get what you get. As I'm saying, nobody needed to wish anything upon this dude. And for all we know, the guys who robbed him knew who he was. But more likely than not, they probably didn't. No one needs to wish or hex anything. Things will happen as they unfold. So this guy, like PIs, he's a PI. PIs are usually pretty, well, archetypically, because again, I don't know this guy, I don't know anything about him, but the cliche is that PIs are like scumbags anyway. And this guy, probably is of no difference because he's one of the PIs that was hired by Harvey Weinstein. You know, these pedos and these captains of industry who get caught doing naughty things, they all do the same thing. They try to track and intimidate and persuade victims and witnesses of their wrongdoings, of their proclivities. You know, and this guy, this detective, Harvey Weinstein, and this detective was no different. It was a PI that was hired to track and probably harass, because a lot of times PIs also harass victims, Harvey's victims. So, I mean, just desserts. It's unfortunate that a life was snubbed out. Someone took his life. But I mean, like I said, you don't need to wish it upon anybody. I just wanted to point that out. It's like, yes, well, figures. That's the reason it's like, oh, that figures. You know, I can't imagine someone doing his line of work, having a good attitude and putting out, you know, putting out good energy, putting out good thoughts, we'll say. I can't imagine him being constructive or positive of a person. So you attract what you put out. It is what it is. No thanks, mirror. Go away. Kim Jong-un's wife has not been seen in public for more than a year as concerns grow. I just found this weird, so I'm just going to read this. The 32-year-old wife, who is relatively attractive, I guess, an alleged mother of the Supreme Leader's children, has not been seen since January 2020, sparking fears about her whereabouts. Coronavirus could be behind the disappearance of Kim Jong-un's wife from the public eye for more than a year, an expert on North Korea has said. Ri Sol-ju, 32, is last seen January 25th, 2020, when she joined the dictator at a Lunar New Year performance at a theater in Pyongyang. The Supreme Leader is believed to have married Ri from Cheongdin in North Korea's northern Hamgyong province in 2009. The couple were spotted sitting behind Kim's 74-year-old aunt, who has been absent from public affairs for more than 6 years after helping him rise to power. But fears are growing after she mysteriously vanished from view, with one expert speculating she could be gone because of the pandemic. Hong Min, director of the North Korean Research Division at Korea Institute for National Unification, said her disappearance could be due to COVID. As a mother with young children, participating in public activities risks potential infection. Even Kim Jong-un went on the lowest number of on-site guidances in the past year. Her disappearance has previously sparked concerns that she could have been executed by the dictator. Of course. That was my first thought, honestly. He was like, oh, okay, I guess he killed her. Kim Kyung-hwe's husband, Jang Song-thaek, 67, suffered the same fate in December 2013 once Kim Jong-un replaced his dead father, Kim Jong-il, 70, 2 years earlier. Okay. Little is known about her personal life, but she's believed to be a graduate from Kim Il-sung University. Okay. Well, that's about it then. She has 3 children with Kim, but this has never been confirmed by North Korea. Okay. All right. So, at the end of the show, we have something I know even less about because I was deeply engaged in capitalist mayhem. There was a coup in Myanmar. That's pretty much all. That's literally all I know. So we're going to find out what's going on. I did want to, and I'm sorry, listeners. Unfortunately, you're listening. You're not watching. You need to go to YouTube and get to the Along the Watchtower YouTube channel. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. There's a video that I found of a woman, thanks Reddit, who was conducting her exercise routine. She was recording her exercise video, and the coup was happening in the background. It's only like a minute, 5 minute and 50 seconds long. So let's take a listen. Or watch, I mean. She's just strutting, doing her thing, and and literally there's just like military vehicles with like machine guns. She's just doing the shimmy. Get it. Yeah. And there's just vehicles after vehicles after vehicles. Some with what seems like automated machine guns, in fact, on top of them. It doesn't. No. Or they could be canopied, but you know how a Humvee has a belt-fed machine gun. But yeah, all these vehicles are showing up, And it looks like they're just letting him pass, yes. So this coup definitely, because from what I can recall seeing on the news, we're about to read about it, but from what I can recall, that it was a bloodless coup. Yeah, she's just killing it. So that's very amusing. But let's read about this. Myanmar military seizes power, detains elected leader Aung San Suu Kyi. Myanmar's military seized power on Monday in a coup against the democratically elected government of Nobel laureate Aung San Suu Kyi, who was detained, along with other leaders of her party in early morning raids. Western nations condemned the sudden turn of events, which derailed years of efforts to establish democracy in the poverty-stricken country and raised even more questions of the prospect of returning a million Rohingya refugees. The UN Security Council will meet on today, amid calls for a strong response. The army said it had responded to election fraud, handing power to military chief General Min Aung Hlaing and imposing a state of emergency for a year in the country, also known as Burma, where neighboring China has a powerful influence, which of course is more likely than not the leading cause of this. I forgot to put Burma in my list because, if you recall, for those listening, there was a huge, a list, 13 points long of China pre and post COVID, everything from the Arctic Circle to the Dalai Lama to Hong Kong, to the trade war, there's just multiple regional conflicts going on. I forgot Burma. Let's see here. The generals made their move hours before Parliament had been due to sit for the first time since the National League of Democracy's landslide win in a November 8th election viewed as a referendum on Suu Kyi's fledgling democratic rule. The NLD said Suu Kyi had called on people to protest against the military takeover, quoting comments it said had been written in anticipation of a coup. Phone and internet connections in the capital and the main commercial center in Yangon were disrupted, and state television went off air after the NLD leaders were detained. Summarizing a meeting of the new junta, the military said Min Aung Hlaing, who had been nearing retirement, had pledged to practice a genuine, disciplined, flourishing, multi-party democratic system. Yeah, that's definitely how you start a democratic rule, is by a military coup and then installing a military junta. He promised a free and fair election and handover of power to the winning party, it said, without giving a time frame. The junta later removed 24 ministers and named 11 replacements to oversee ministries including finance, defense, foreign affairs, and interior. Suu Kyi, President Win Myint, and other NLD leaders were taken in the early hours of the morning. Reuters were told by phone. They said at least 45 people had been detained. A video posted to Facebook by one MP appeared to show the arrest of regional lawmaker Papa Han. Her husband pleads with men in military garb standing outside the gate. A young child can be seen clinging to his chest and waiting. Yeah. The detentions came after days of tension between the civilian government and the military in the aftermath of the most recent election, in which Suu Kyi's party won 83% of the vote. The army takeover would put Myanmar back under a dictatorship. I urge people not to accept this, to respond and wholeheartedly to protest the coup by the military. Reuters was unable to reach any NLD official to confirm the veracity of this statement. Supporters of the military celebrated the coup, parading through Yangon in pickup trucks and waving national flags. Our country was a bird that was just learning to fly. Now the army has broken our wings. Yes. And so it happens with an administration that more likely than not will be, ostensibly speaking, will be lenient towards Chinese tragedies. That's not a word. Towards the Chinese Communist Party and their proclivity towards not only illegalities but misanthropic, genocidal behavior in terms of the Uyghur Muslims, right? In terms of supporting proxy conflicts and junta military coups, because the previous dictatorship was supported by China, so this isn't surprising at all. It's highly unfortunate, and again is just another example of what I believe and what we will come to find out probably in the coming days and weeks, months, and years, is Chinese provocation. That's the word I was looking for, not tragedies. Uh, the Biden administration will be lenient towards Chinese provocations and saber rattling. And yeah, we will see how this unfolds. This is a huge development that's kind of gone underreported. It's being reported. It's kind of gone underreported. It's not really on our radar because we have a whole bunch of domestic crap that's part of the celebrity, of the cult of celebrity. Um, in regards to that, there's all sorts of shite. Some stuff about GOP. So Marjorie Taylor Greene and some of her comments and her craziness. Like we've been saying, she will be splitting. Well, Trump has essentially fractured the Republican Party, just like the progressives. I don't want to use the term progressives are fractured because really progressives are trying to pull the Democratic Party in the direction that it's supposed to be it. Okay, it's supposed to be the party of the people. The populace has spoken with support of progressive policies across the board in 2020 and even before then. And you're seeing the Democratic Party now shying away from everything that led them to victory. I wonder why that is. Oh man, there was even the governor from West Virginia, the brokest state in the union, of which Manchin is the representative. Manchin, who's arguing downward from $2,000 checks. He wants more targeted relief. Even the governor of West Virginia, we have a video of him saying, like, "Hey man, we need to throw money at this. Okay, so what? It's gonna cost us money now. It'll cost us more later. Let's do it." So this is ridiculous. This is all about money. This is all a position of austerity, of budget deficit hawkery. With just more, basically the rest of the show is just going to be examples of both the Democratic and Republican Party just fracturing along so-called populist lines, progressive populist lines, and then you have conservative populist lines, I guess we'll call them, Trumper type populists, because that's a good portion of the Republican Party is the Trumpers. And then some coronavirus news. Top official says that schools are on track to be open by April. Some Pfizer vaccinations went missing. We still haven't covered that. And then, some health officials actually left amid Cuomo, Mr. Captain of the coronavirus effort himself, exhibiting some very Trump-like behaviors. But we'll see if we can get that tomorrow. Appreciate you sticking around. Please like, share, and subscribe if you like what I'm doing. And if you are a retail investor, this is not financial advice, but hold, my man, hold diamond hands all day, son. But yeah, be well to yourself, take care of yourself, and take care of each other. See you later.